Hello and welcome to another episode of the Women Can Do Show. I am
Yeah,
your host, Rochelle Sawyer Cobb, and I
yeah.
have with me my special guest, Miss T. Christine. Welcome to the show, Christine.
Hey, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. We definitely can do it. I'm so excited to be on this show with Rochelle.
Well, we are, first of all, happy Wednesday. Happy Women Can Do Wednesday to
Yes.
everyone. As we all know, May is the Mental Health Awareness Month. So we can't wait to dig into this topic today. Of course, our topic is mental health awareness and the importance of therapy, right? So before we dig in, just share with us who is Miss T. Christine.
Miss C. Christine. Oh my gosh, she's a million things, but one thing, if I had to use one word to put into everything that I do, it is purpose. Purpose is who I am. Empowerment is
Yeah.
who I am. I am the owner of the Miss T Christine Empowerment brand. I've been around. My baby is 3 years old. Going
Yay.
on 4. Yeah. Oh, she turned 4. I'm sorry, March 13th. She turned
Oh,
4. Um,
congratulations.
yes. So I do, empowerment events as well as I am a motivational speaker and purpose coach. I curate spaces a lot of times for women to develop tools, tips, and just a character to
Mm-hmm.
live out their dreams, not just dream their dreams, but live them out.
Mm.
I'm really big on the how, so a lot of my
Mm-hmm.
stuff centers around how to do things. I always say our elders and our ancestors, they told us a lot of things, but they didn't tell us how or what these things
Yep.
look like. So I'm
Yep.
really big on tangible things, applicable things. Everybody can fit the same concept, but the navigation for each person will be different. Because nothing is new under the sun. However, we are all going through a lot of the same things, but how we respond to life is usually different. How
Yeah.
we navigate life is usually different. And learning how to define, refine, discover, rediscover purpose is an ongoing journey and a walk, and it goes from level to
Mm.
level. And I do believe that, I'm a girl from the hood. I was misunderstood, and my brand is for that girl because sometimes you do, find if you feel like you can't fit, you don't find your fit in the world and
Mhm,
all of those
mhm.
things.
Yeah,
But knowing how to go in every space and still be your authentic self, true to your purpose of who you are, that
yeah,
knowing who you are, especially if you didn't have parents to affirm and confirm who you are in the healthiest way, you
yeah,
figure that out, and that's shaped in your experiences and shaped in life. And a lot of times life isn't so kind.
yeah.
So I'm big on purpose because purpose is aligned with who God made you and
Mm,
created you to be.
yeah, yeah,
And a lot of times women are navigating life from who somebody else said they should be or what they think it should look like and all of
yeah.
these things. But there really is no peace. There's no real peace. There's no real success
Mm,
without purpose, without
yeah,
being who God breathed life into you to be.
yeah,
Life is going to happen, but we really can have abundance. We really can have peace. We really can have joy. I believe those things belong to black and brown girls. We just don't know
yeah,
how to have it. So that's what my brand is about. I pushed through a lot of pain, but we're going to talk about as we get
yeah,
into things. But that's me in a nutshell. I'm everything purpose because, like I said, I just don't think there's anything apart from God. And
yeah,
we really
yeah,
kind of learn it, but that looks different. And again, I curate spaces. I'll make it cutesy, and I make it, it's a business, it's a buy-in. But while this is a business and it's my brand, it's also truly purpose work for me. And I do this out of my obedience.
yeah, yeah. I love that. That is you said a mouthful. You empowered us with your intro.
Yes. Yay.
You truly did.
Thank
So we're on the topic of mental health, which is not it's talked about, but not talked about enough in a I'll say productive way.
you. Hmm.
I'm just gonna choose that word.
Yeah. Yes.
um, so share with us, how did you become passionate about mental health? Was it your own personal experience with it, or what led you to really like hone in on that?
Yeah, so I didn't say I am a clinical therapist. I have been for 10 years now, and I've worked with almost every demographic there is, from
Mm-hmm.
drug and alcohol, children and families, couples, individuals, you name it, probation, parole. I've probably done it, in inpatient and outpatient settings. What started me on that journey was, in undergrad, I went to school all my life. I wanted to be like a female Thurgood Marshall. I wanted to go to law school and be a lawyer.
Yeah.
But as I got into my junior year of college, and I was in my studies, I'm deep in my major in criminal justice. As I started to study the Constitution, and I was like, this Constitution is racist. Like, it is unfair. How do I help my people with this?
Yeah.
Because I've always wanted to do something that was purposeful in my living. And
Mm.
I was just like, where can I help my people before it gets to
Mm-hmm.
this level of
Mm-hmm.
the criminal justice system? Because the criminal justice system is not built for us.
Yeah.
Um, and that's how I found the human service, social service field. And then I fell in love with the therapy track, psychology level. And for me, it's because a lot of it, when I was statistically looking at the statistics of criminals, especially black and brown criminals, and the things that we statistically do, common
Yeah.
criminal things that we might do, a lot of it stems from so much pain, so much
Yeah.
childhood trauma and anger, and so many things that wasn't being addressed.
True.
It
Yeah.
wasn't being addressed. Because I'm
Mm-hmm.
just like, well, imagine the things that could have been in some of these men and women's lives
Yeah.
prior to jail, had they had the proper navigation of these emotions,
Mm.
the proper navigation of, just self-identifying themselves and
Yeah.
who they are, and having somebody to really shape what love is for them,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of crimes of passions and all of these
Mm-hmm.
things, so many things. It is it's so, when I say so much on that end statistically, that made
Mm-hmm.
me go, where can I insert myself? And
Mm.
it kind of went from there. I have been blessed to work in my field since graduating undergrad and going on to get my master's and such.
Yeah.
Um, been blessed to do the work on so many levels, work with so many demographics. So I would say I've worked with the smalls and the talls. So
Yeah.
there's really not a real big gap between the pain of my little ones that I might process with,
Mm.
to my adults. And that's why, in my brand, I can implement so much when I facilitate, when I speak in rooms and all of these things, because
Mm-hmm.
of what I know to be true, statistically, but what I've actually been able to walk people through, men and women
Yeah.
alike, from when they're little, and I'm processing with them that their father touched them inappropriately,
Mm.
to the tall. When that little girl is now 30, she's sitting in front of me,
Wow.
and this is the first time she said it out loud.
Yeah.
I have my 7-year-old saying it in 7-year-old words in one juncture. And then I have 30-year-old woman who is now, because of that pain from 7 that nobody got a chance to process with her when she
Wow.
was 7. I have her sitting in front of me, now drug addicted,
Yeah.
um, now having a record, all of these things, now having DHS in her life because she doesn't really
Mm.
know how to navigate her own motherhood.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she is, even though she's in her 30s sitting in front of me, she is that 7-year-old little girl who
Wow.
nobody protected.
Yeah.
And then I get to real life see that actual 7-year-old girl in another client who is actually 7, and it's happening to her. So I get to see the
Wow.
beginning and the end.
Mm.
So that really, really for me is what drives a lot of my facilitation, my passion for
Yeah.
this field, because being able to work with all demographics, when I know what this looks like if we don't get ahead of it, because I've seen it,
Yeah.
I
Wow.
process with that unaddressed what it happens. So now when I'm processing with my 7-year-old, I'm so
Ah.
passionate about it, because I know if her little heart does not heal and process this, if nobody comes along to keep reaffirming that she should have been protected, that
Yeah.
mommy and daddy were, yes, absolutely wrong. Right is right and wrong is wrong, and all of those things. And yes, your feelings matter.
Yeah.
and that is over. That doesn't mean that you're damaged or that you
Yeah.
did anything wrong. If we don't get in that gap at 7,
Mm.
we cannot sweep it under the rug. At
Because
33,
that's what
40,
happens.
yes, 30, 40, she's now have her own children, navigating those things, navigating, trying to put that pain down, going into relationships, because now this relationship of being inappropriately touched leads
Mm-hmm.
to not knowing what love looks like and going into relationships with people who are ultimately have the same seeds as her father, her
Mm.
abuser.
Yeah.
So she finds lovers who kind of mirror that same thing, and abuse becomes love for her because that's what it was,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to a male. So she has children now with men who are liking to do the same thing to her own daughters.
Wow.
And when they come to her, she might not know how to deal with it. She
Yeah.
may
Yeah.
shut them down,
Yeah.
all of those things. And now we have a cycle of trauma, of abuse. These are things that my people are going through, and we're not talking about it.
Yeah.
Like I said,
Yeah.
we don't talk about it in a way that's real. We're not talking about it in a way that's productive. Especially as being a black and brown therapist myself, it's important for us to get on platforms like this, get in rooms, and tell
Yeah.
the truth.
Yeah.
Like I
There
tell
it
the
is.
truth. My 7-year-old client, this is what it looks like, Mom.
Yeah.
This is what it looks like, Dad. This is what it looks like if this doesn't happen. My men, if you don't learn as a man, you were God created you to lead. He trusted you to lead when he made you, breathe life into you and made you a male.
Yeah.
That is automatic. If nobody teaches you that, you learning it from the muscle, and you don't know, and you don't take care of yourself, everything and everybody you touch and everybody you lead, you will lead them to pain because that's what you have.
Wow.
That's what you have.
Powerful. Yeah.
And you lead from
True.
pain.
Yeah.
And a lot of it starts at our head. And I hate that. I don't even be wanting to get too deep or too spiritual, but the enemy comes to cut off our head. He
Yeah.
attacks our men first
Yep.
because he knows that then that trauma begots trauma. The women were trying to fill in masculine gaps and all of these things. And again,
Yeah.
we're navigating so many things that we were never meant to navigate.
Yeah.
Trying to give it back. Trying to heal is a thing. Unpacking is a process.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to unlearn is a process. But then, as we do birth new children, how do we teach them how to have that balance of healthiness in their lives?
Yeah.
How do we break these cycles? So we have to have these conversations. I'm so passionate about it because of that, of being able to
Yeah.
have a 7-year-old rape victim and a 44-year-old rape
Right.
victim, and having to also have a male rape victim
Mm-hmm.
to process with a male
Yeah.
when it was the males in his life who violated him.
Wow.
So he's a little bit more macho around other men,
Right.
a little bit more aggressive,
Mm-hmm.
not able to have healthy connections with men because he didn't have a healthy connection with a man.
Yeah.
And when he's in front of me, that little boy he was is who
Shows
he
up.
is.
Yeah.
Shows up.
Wow.
And I'm like, you're leading from a 6-year-old. You're leading your children from a 6-year-old. You're trying to lead a woman, a wife, a girlfriend, somebody from a 6-year-old. That is hard because the little
Yeah.
boy is not healed. So the man is not showing up really.
Right.
It's almost as if you're frozen in time. You're getting older.
Mm. That's what I was gonna say. Like you're
Yes.
stuck as that
Yes.
six
You're,
year
you're
old.
getting
Yeah.
older,
Yeah.
but you're really that little girl. You're really that little boy.
Mm-hmm.
And if nobody saves you, because you're really still crying out for somebody to protect you, you got to do the work.
Yeah.
And people like myself, we go to school, we study to help you.
Yeah.
Go to therapy, go. And because you need those spaces, especially my men, I always tell them, you need a safe space. You trying to lead in this world is hard. So
Mm-hmm.
you deserve this space, this 1 hour a month or whatever,
Yeah.
where you don't have to be anything to your
Yeah.
therapist. You
Yeah.
owe them absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
You can just leave it here, and it's as if it never happened.
Yeah.
And you get to show up stronger,
Yeah.
and you get to help the people around you know how to help you as well. It helps with communication. I always tell my men, how do the women in your life know how to help you or show up for you if you're not saying anything? Are they supposed
Yeah.
to read your mind? you know
Yeah.
all of those things. You're not talking, you're not saying. And because you don't know how, and you don't know how to be vulnerable, and you think that makes you less masculine, but it actually is extremely powerful to be able to tell a woman how she can support you in this. And even if it is space or whatever it is that you need in that moment in the house, or maybe, after this is your hour to yourself, the same way women do self-care things and they need an hour to themselves. We're open about it. We're verbal. We set boundaries. We're like, listen, I'm not mom. Everybody go to your room.
Yes.
I need a minute. I'm in the kitchen. Get out. Everybody get out the kitchen. Like, we will do that.
Yeah.
And so where men feel like that makes them weak if they say, listen,
I was going to say men do not do that.
They will not do that. They will not say, hey, I want everybody out the living room.
Right.
But the women are in your life for a reason. We can say, hey, kids, let's get out of daddy's space for the moment.
Yeah.
Can we all just go to our spaces, because daddy needs his time to himself in the living room. That's where he is today. And that might be how she supports you. And you see how that's small, but if you don't say anything and you're just getting irritated with everybody that's in the living room, instead of simply saying, I need a quiet moment in my living room, and I was expecting that, and I thought y'all all wasn't going to be home, and I'm irritated.
Yeah.
And now you're snapping out instead of just saying, like, every day at this time or whatever the case may be, is it okay if this is where I am communicating it? I don't want to talk about it, but I just kind of need to regroup. It's okay for a man to need to regroup. It's okay. Yeah. It's okay for you to need to fill yourself up for a minute, or to just have a moment of peace in your own house. And your partner can do that for you if you communicate it.
And then we as women have to respect that too. Like, because you know what'll happen is, and I'm gonna women, I'm gonna call us out on this.
I know, right?
If a man says that, we're gonna say, well, why? What's wrong?
Yes,
you don't want to talk about it.
Yes.
Are you sure?
Oh, what happened? Women all the time to stop that. Yes. I always
instead of, but I want to point that out, because we do need to be accountable for that. Like, instead of, because like you said, when we want our time, it's like, look, I need my time. Today is self-care Saturday. Don't bother me. And boom, and right, and they respect that, right?
Yeah, they
but
do. Yeah.
Imagine though, when I had to think about that. If they said that, we're like, well,
we why?
What happened?
Yes.
Let's talk about it.
Right. Do you need to talk about it? Like, and a lot of times they're not in that space. And I tell my men that all the time. Well, you can say that is you're not don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And I do tell my women all the time, like, please don't poke. Like, it's just not a thing. We naturally want to.
We naturally do. Yeah.
That role of nurturing, and we want to.
That's what it
but
is.
I said we tiptoe the line of becoming his mother or a nag. Because we just keep poking at it, and it's like he wants to. And men process inwardly; they're not like us. We might need to hash it out, talk about it. We want a side. We want somebody to ask us how we feel. We want that.
Yeah.
A lot of times they don't do it that way. So just because it doesn't look our way, we have to just do that respect. They're like, he's just asking for the living room. I'm gonna take the kids to Target. I'm gonna, whatever the case may be. And let them have that moment. And if you are graceful that way, sometimes and most times they will come to you. If you're just like, well, if you need saying stuff like that, well, if you need to talk, or if you want to talk, or just dump it out, I'm here.
Right.
And leave it. Don't poke. Like you said, why?
Yeah.
But you don't want to be bothered with me, or make it about me, make it about myself. Like, what you want to be bothered with me?
Oh yeah.
Or who you really want to be bothered with, and all of these things. So it's like so much crazy stuff that goes through our heads.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, if he's thinking about our emotional headspace, he's just gonna be like, forget it.
He's gonna be like, exactly.
I gotta think about how she's gonna react. I'm good.
Yeah.
It's funny.
So and you know what I think is so interesting? Oh my gosh, when you were saying how that you work with the 7-year-old kid, and let's say the 40-year-old that is still the 7-year-old kid. But again, because you work with, both ends of both ends of the spectrum, you get to see it. This one helps you help that one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, as you were saying that, that's what I was thinking. Like, wow, you get to see, okay, this is
what
she
it will
didn't
look
get
like.
this is
Yes.
what it would look like. Yeah.
And
But
that's how
and
I get to help my families, because I tell them from experience. Like, I
mm,
talk to kids like your
mm-hmm.
kid, or I have talked to moms like you who
Yeah.
also have trauma. You have to break it, mom. Like,
Mm,
this is what it will look like. All of
yeah.
those things, and just even being able to identify. I know what it looks like on a 5-year-old who may be walking into an anxiety disorder.
Mm, mm,
Parents being careful. If your kid is dropped the juice, you don't have to make it a big deal.
mm,
Because
yeah.
if you're not watching, every kid is different. You have that kid that gets started really quickly.
Yep.
That's that kid that kind of you need to pay attention to, because they're on their way to anxiety. So you're the parent. You have to learn to teach them to soothe themselves and affirm that they're all right. It's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Telling them those things because that's your kid that's a little bit nervous for
Yeah.
whatever
Mm,
reason. But
yeah.
paying attention to those signs, because it happens. Because at 5 it's cute, it's just them being 5 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But then when they are having panic attacks, in college,
Yeah.
and you're like, what's wrong with you? And all of those things, because you're uneducated on what these things look like. And then they're telling a therapist, because these kids today are a little bit more open to it. They're like,
Yeah.
I never felt comfortable, or I was always a little fearful to talk to my mom or my dad about this, because when
Mm-hmm.
I did this was the reaction.
Yeah.
Being very, very, very careful of those signs, because a lot of that, I just was posting about that. A lot of mood disorders is shaped in the family dynamic because we're
Yeah.
not paying attention. Just to those things. And when you have multiple children, even though you're raising them the same, you're fair, you do all the things, you feel like they have the same mom, the same dad, or the same parent. They're in the same household. They're having the same experience. They're not.
They're
Each of
not.
your children are experiencing you very differently. That's
Mm-hmm.
why you can have 5 children, and you have your oldest is like, we had the best mom and dad ever,
Yeah.
and the baby is like,
Will
Dad
think
wasn't
different. Yeah.
SHIT. Like,
Yeah.
I'm team mom, or whatever the case
Yeah.
may be. And because their experiences were very different, even though they were in the same household with the same parents.
Yeah.
Your kids experience you differently because they are individuals. So learning your kids' love language. I like to use other people's
Mm.
language that you're using today. People are learning each other's love language. Relationships, romantic relationships is like a hot topic. It will always be.
Yeah.
It's because it's very important. But that really applies to overall relationships. Your
Mm.
kids have a love language, and you really do need to be paying
I'm
attention
glad
to
you said it.
each child's love
That's so
language.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And we don't, again, like you said, love language is always applied to, an adult relationship. But you're right.
romance.
Your
Yeah,
your kid has a love language, and each kid doesn't. You may have 5. Each kid doesn't have the same love
nope.
language.
Some of them experience you in love. You have your clingy one, the one
Yeah.
that wants to be up under you.
Yeah.
And if you're not in the right headspace, you're constantly making them feel like they're annoying. You want them to go away. They experience you as somebody that is emotionally abandoning. And they
Mm.
experiencing you now as, you're always making them feel like their presence is a nuisance, or whatever the case may be. And they will grow
Yeah.
up with that void. And now they're emotionally needy
Yeah.
for being emotionally abandoned by you, because you have that kid that just, and again, I get it. If you're a mother of multiples, you're tired, and you sometimes don't want everybody, and you just want this kid to go. And it's
Hmm.
not personal, right? But
Right.
that does have to be the kid that you have that boundary with, and they're the kids you let help you with the cook the dinner and to
Yeah.
be a little sous chef.
Hmm.
They're the kid you take to the market, and
Yeah.
everybody else has to stay
Make
home.
make space for them
Make
somewhere.
the
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
So that way they know that it's coming, and it can be a little special, because it's like, I'm the one that gets to go. Because like
Hmm.
mom wants to spend time with me, like how I want to spend time with her too.
Yeah.
Because they're the kid, the clingy kid, where for them they spell love that way.
Yeah.
And you're also teaching them boundaries, that nobody can be bothered all the time. And you have to
Yeah.
be learn to be okay with your own presence. You're
Yeah.
not unloved if I'm not around you.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But you can't even get to the teaching moment if you're constantly trying to push them away. All of these things are just things that mental health is why this conversation is so important, because we don't learn these things in Black and brown communities, and then when we learn them, it's foreign to us, or we feel like it means something is wrong or we're doing
Mm-hmm.
something wrong. And it's looked at so, it's so shamed upon when this is normal stuff. Because in other cultures, they're going to therapy like they go to a primary care checkup.
Right.
It's very, and they talk about
Yeah.
it in the
Yeah.
market. They talk
Freely.
about
Yeah.
it. Hey, did you go see Dr. Such and Such? I just got out of my session with Dr. Such and Such.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody is talking about this like it's lunch meat. And with us, it's so shamed upon. Even the diagnoses, mood disorder diagnoses, other cultures don't have a hard time
Mm.
saying,
Yeah.
that they're struggling with mood disorders or any of those things. If we even go to a psych eval, that's the thing. If we even go, we're not telling anybody
We're not
that
telling. Yeah.
they say I have bipolar, or
Mm-hmm.
they say I have the major depression, or they say I have
Mm-hmm.
anxiety. We're not even saying it. So how
Mm-hmm.
do you even we heal in community? How are you gonna even get the support you need? Especially in the home setting, with your kids, with your spouse. These are people who have to live with your diagnosis. Like, and they don't even know it.
Yeah.
I've had plenty of I counseled a couple one time who ended up divorced because of a bipolar disorder that came out later.
Wow.
And the male was just like, I could never understand. I thought it was, I thought I was doing everything wrong, or I could never understand. I couldn't get it right, and all of these things. But if you were able to be invited into, if she was able to be honest with herself and
Yeah.
then you could understand the diagnosis a bit better and know what is symptom and what is my loved one.
Mm.
It's the same way if you have a child with autism. Now you have
Yeah.
to learn, what is my child? Is this my child trying to manipulate me just as kids do to get their way?
Mm-hmm.
Or is this a symptom of their spectrum?
Yeah. Yeah.
You get to learn these are languages.
Yeah.
These are languages. And mental health is the same way, learning their mental health style. And it doesn't even have to be something severe. Just certain things, introvert and extrovert, that is a
Mm-hmm.
style. All of
Mm-hmm.
these things is mental health stuff. But we don't have the conversations until something happens.
Yeah.
Or it becomes a buzzword on TikTok. Narcissist is a
Right.
buzzword.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
so because it's a buzzword, now we want to learn. Now we want to talk about it. Oh
And
my
then
God. That's
and
why Kitty cheated on me, because he was a narcissist.
narcissist. But you know what's interesting? People only apply it to men. I was I
Oh my
I
God.
told one of my
That
friends, we were
conversation
talking
is
about it.
loaded.
I told her, I said, you do know there are women narcissists too.
You can be raised by a narcissist. The narcissist parent is a huger conversation.
Yeah,
Like, the
yeah.
narcissist parent birthed some of the narcissists, and that's, it's not even
It's
narcissism at that
true.
point. It is literally their norm. That's
Yeah.
their norm.
Yeah.
Narcissism is their norm. They were raised literally and cultivated in narcissism.
Mm-hmm.
So they only know certain techniques. Survival for a narcissist looks like one thing, then it might
Yeah.
look like for you. Emotional survival is a space that a narcissist lives in. It's their comfort zone. They live there. They kind of
Yeah.
like, and they do it like darts all day long, and it's like they never get tired of it.
Yeah.
And people are not realizing that really is just the response to life, because they probably
Wow.
had a parent that made them feel the need
Mm-hmm.
for those things. A caregiver who made them feel the need for those things, and your trauma comes up in the midst of a narcissist, because
Mm-hmm.
if you're emotionally needy, you're going to be trying to figure out why, and you're going to be internalizing it. So it's
Yeah.
really a pain begot pain thing. Because people think they have hit the jackpot with, oh my God, they were narcissists. And it's just like, that's not the end of the conversation. It's not the end of the conversation. It kind of goes a little bit deeper than that. And it is, again, these mental health conversations, when you can properly and healthily identify these things and appropriate them to where we can have a healthier community of Black and brown people, where we're not ourselves showing up as narcissists. Because you may not necessarily be a narcissist today, but tomorrow you might
Yeah.
show some narcissistic traits. Some people are narcissistic friends,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff. So,
Yeah.
and again, it's their norm. spirits of control a lot of times go into that. So many things.
Yeah.
So that's why these conversations, mental health is so important, and having somebody to educate you on those things. Because a lot of times I tell my clients that, like, you're the expert. I'm not. I don't know you better than you know yourself. You're
Mm.
the expert. I'm really the
Mm-hmm.
guide. I'm
Mm.
guiding you through your own
Yeah.
thoughts. And it's just like a thousand-piece puzzle. You dump the puzzle out of your brain, and we're going to put it
Uh-huh.
together
And put it
together.
together. Yeah.
Me and you. We're just
Yeah.
going to piece it together until it
Yeah.
comes together. And it's like this section becomes clearer after you talk to me because we put a piece there.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of navigating, clarifying, identifying, and I do a lot of educating. Like,
Yeah.
just educating people, because a lot of times people are just making decisions and moving from uninformed. So
And
when
they
you
really
know
don't know.
better,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
now you know that when you act this way, it could very much so be you're bipolar, and it's showing
Mm-hmm.
up. I'm going to show you now how it's showing up in your relationships with your daughter, with your
Yeah.
son,
Yeah.
because this is the situation. They might come to me and tell me, "Oh, my daughter, my son, blah blah blah." I take that circumstance that they're going through currently and pretty much apply it
Mm.
to what's going on, so that we can see how this affects you. Because sometimes we
Yeah.
don't think it's going to affect us. A lot of times, especially black and brown people, we will act, we heard what you said, but if it's something we don't want to accept, we're just like ignoring that.
Yeah.
Like, if that's not happening and we kind of don't pay it any mind, we act like it doesn't affect us. And that's something too. Mental health is such a stigmatized conversation still
Mm-hmm.
in our
Especially
community,
in our
because
community. Yeah.
yes, we don't think that it exists for us. We don't think it exists until it exists. A lot of times you hear a lot of people say, I didn't know mental health was real until I went through this depression or
Mm-hmm.
this and that. And it's just like, so you think people are just talking about this stuff just because it affects everybody. It's not a white person thing or a this person thing. It's a
Yeah.
people thing. It really is. Everybody needs it. And even just the average functioning person should go to therapy probably for, once a month for maybe 6 months, just
Yeah.
because.
Yeah.
Just because, just for just life stuff, because of those, and that, like I said, other cultures, that's exactly what they do.
Yeah.
They don't, and
Regularly.
don't let a crisis happen. They
Mm-hmm.
enroll again. It's a
Yeah.
crisis. You're supposed to go to the doctor. That's exactly how they see it. So
Yeah.
it's just unfortunate that we're so still, we value and we almost idolize strength, to the
Mm.
point where we really don't, we have a distorted idea of strength.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That is so on point. Yeah.
Yeah,
You
it's a
you know
distorted
what? You know what? And I go back to how you said it starts with the child. And so what happens is
idea.
we just pass these
Yeah.
things, behaviors or whatever, pass it off as if nothing is happening,
Nothing.
and instead of addressing, like, find out why they did this or
Right.
why, as a kid. And I think in our community, that's, to me, that's that's why you have the 40-year-old,
We don't address. Yes, we don't. We learn to
because as a
suppress. We do
kid,
not address.
yeah, we
Yes.
don't address.
Yes,
We
we
don't have
suppress.
those
We don't
conversations.
address.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
That's what we learn, and we think suppression is strength.
Oh
Like,
my
and
gosh.
it's like you said, we don't address it at that little girl, little boy juncture. We're
Mhm.
ignoring it and just hoping that it goes away,
Mhm.
or we're ignoring it and praying that it goes away.
Mhm.
And as a child, the seeds, kids' brains are exactly like sponges. Too
Mhm.
much of hearing, oh, you're sensitive. Oh, you'll get
Mhm.
over it. Oh, stop saying it. It
Mhm.
never happened.
Mhm.
It didn't happen.
Mhm.
It's a seed. We see these things, and now we're confusing the kid because they're like, I know this happened to me, and
Mhm.
we be the first people to ever hurt our kids and to make them feel crazy. To make them feel crazy,
Yeah.
because we don't want to have the conversation, because we don't want to have the conversation about our brother touching our son. We don't
Yeah.
want to have the conversation. We don't want to address that as a family, that
Mhm.
Uncle Freddie is a creep, everybody.
Mhm.
It's as simple as that. And no,
Yeah.
he does not belong at the dinner table for Thanksgiving, because he's still
Mhm.
funneling through some things.
Yeah.
And as a family, we need to challenge him to get the help he needs. Instead of sweeping it under the rug and not
And
addressing
that's
it,
what we don't do. Oh my
we
God.
have to challenge him. And Uncle Freddie, we love you dearly. There's
Hmm.
no love lost, but in the protection of the rest of the children of the family
Come
and the children
on.
you have already hurt,
Come
you'll be
on.
getting your plate on the porch.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Yeah.
And that is just a boundary that has to be set, and
Yeah.
that shows the one in the family that has been hurt that they are protected. And
Yep.
in that moment, they need that
Yeah.
to heal, because we can't undo what Uncle Freddie did.
Yeah.
But the least that we can do is step in that gap, like that. People who love you protect you. People who love
Hmm.
you do have boundaries. People who love you
Hmm.
have the conversations. People
Hmm.
who love you acknowledge you.
Hmm.
Because trying to figure that out in the world, yikes.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah.
That's a yikes type of thing. Because
Yeah.
it's going
And
to be
you,
a trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma.
yeah.
And then the add, like I said, by the time that baby becomes 40, if we sweep it under the rug, there's drug addiction now. There's all of this stuff now, when really they're just reaching out for the help
Hmm.
from what happened at 6.
Yeah.
But if nobody addresses it, they look for it in the drugs, in the this, in the sex, in the that, in anything. Some people now also, serial entrepreneurship has also become an avoidance tactic, a tactic of
Hmm.
escapism. I have to have 7 streams of income, and
I believe
you
that 100%.
you busy, 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 busy.
I have always thought
I
that.
mean,
I'm glad you said that.
anybody that's super busy, for me, that is always a red flag. So you don't need none of the hours in the 24 that we get a day. No, 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 no. What are you really running from?
What are you running from?
You're running from something, because
Yeah.
no one human being just wants to be busy, 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 busy. You're running from that avoidance of, because when we are by ourselves at some
Yeah.
point and you have to shut down the thoughts, whatever
Yep.
is there,
Yep.
it's sitting there and it's waiting, it's
Yep.
comfortable, it's eating Cheetos, waiting. It's waiting. And that is what a person
We
like
don't
that
want
is.
to sit at that
They
table.
don't want to deal with that. They don't want to deal with that. So they try to tire themselves out. They want to be completely exhausted by the
Yeah.
time they have to be alone.
Yeah.
And that is unhealthiness, because
Yeah.
somebody who's avoiding themselves like that is going to avoid you.
Yeah.
You can't be, and a lot of times emotional unavailability, being ignored as a kid will make you be unavailable to yourself, because it teaches you that my feelings never matter.
Yeah.
So it's no point of me processing them. There's no point of me processing them. So when they happen, I need to do something. I need to
Yeah.
get myself, I need to accomplish something. I need to do this. I need to do that. I need to, and at the end of the day, none of that stuff, you can be void. That's why we see the Robin Williams and, so many celebrities who unfortunately succumb to suicidal ideation,
Yeah.
because they are, those things do not make you happy. They won't fill whatever the void is.
Hmm.
That's why I'm so big on purpose, because, of my own struggles with mental health as
Yeah.
well. I struggled bad with a bad bout of clinical depression
Mm.
when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Just having a, in and out dad, and having an emotionally and verbally abusive mother. My
Yeah.
mother was a provider, very good at that. Loves me to death. But
Yeah.
knowing how to love me, that's the
Mm.
thing. She didn't know
Yeah.
how to love me. I mean, one way, and that's the only way she knew, was to harsh. Love and
Mm.
abuse and harshness is coupled with love. That is
Yeah.
what love is for her. Like, she's one of 8, but my mom and her siblings are extremely close, but
Hmm.
dysfunctional all at the
Wow.
same time. So they're
Yeah.
very loving, but they can fight just as quick as they cuss each other out. It's simultaneously happening.
Hmm.
And that's their chaos, but for them it's not chaos, it's love. So
Yeah.
for a long
Yeah.
time, that's what I thought love was, until I realized
Wow.
that it was not.
Yeah.
Love was always coupled with harshness for a very long time, until I had to unlearn that, and I realized that that wasn't healthy. But undoing that was difficult. But I
Mm.
suffered from depression because of it. I always felt alone. I was always made to feel like I was too sensitive.
Yeah.
And too emotional. Then when I go out in the world, I'm too tough. I'm too this, I'm too that. I have a tough exterior to other people in the world, but this is like amongst my family dynamic. I'm too sensitive, and
Wow.
I'm constantly being told, nobody cares about your feelings. Nobody cares about your feelings. I come home, something hurts me in the world. A little girl wants to run to her mother and cry about it and talk about
Right.
it. I didn't have that kind of mom who was going to assure me, reaffirm me, or any of that. It was always self-critical. Like, what did you do wrong? You're always doing
Mm-hmm.
something. So it was no balance. If I was wrong, you should correct me, teach me. There's a teaching moment there.
Right.
But I also didn't, it makes me feel like, well, I'm always wrong?
Yeah.
So I grew up thinking like I can never do anything right. I never
Wow.
do anything right, and not trusting myself in that way. So these are things that I have to undo. And like you said, something you said, you can think you're so healed from so many things, because I've come such a long way, glory to God. Because I have been free of sadness for a good strong 3 years now.
Wow. Look
God
at
gave
God.
me victory, complete victory and
Yeah.
healing from clinical depression in 2021, and I won't ever forget it, because when I say I've had sad moments, but I don't
Yeah.
have bouts of depression. I
Mm.
literally do not have it. Like, he really is the lifter of my head.
Praise God. Come on.
I
Yeah.
don't I don't have it, but I really tarried in prayer to get to this space. And I definitely had to undo all of that stuff, because I was raised by somebody who didn't know better.
Mm-hmm.
And having to do that, even that, having to forgive your parents who didn't know any better. We
Yeah.
have parents who love us to death, but they didn't know how to love us.
Yeah.
And now that we're adults, we're like, I got all these problems, and it's easy to play the blame game, but that's for the weak. I always
Yeah.
say
Oh,
the blame game is for the weak.
yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Real women stand up and we make it happen. We take accountability. And what happened to you is never your fault as a kid, but your healing is your responsibility
Yeah.
as an adult. And we have to, okay, my mom didn't know any better. How do I know better? So how do I undo it?
Mm-hmm.
And how do I now extend love to my mom, boundaries to her, and mirror what I need? I do that. And it works. After a
Yeah.
while, family either deals with it or whatever the case may be. And I always tell people, for my people pleasers that I process with, I always say, building boundaries with your family is some of the hardest people to do it with. I say,
Yep.
if you do it with them, you can do it with anybody.
Yep.
Because it's very hard to use that no word.
Yeah.
It's very hard to do that with people who were often shaped to think that we're obligated to them
Yeah.
just because of blood, just
It's true.
because of
Yeah.
these things, and that we're never supposed to have anything to ourselves when it comes to this person, or never supposed to demand space or command space for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
These are things that's hard to do, but when you do it, you feel a lot lighter, and
Yeah.
people who love you will always understand. They may not like it at first because it's uncomfortable at first, because they're
Right.
used to a version of you that they benefit from. So, of course, people are all for you healing until you heal
Mm-hmm.
from them. And they're
Until you
like,
heal from them.
well, hold on a minute. I was here
Yeah.
for your healing journey, but, you know,
Didn't know it included
yeah,
me.
didn't know that meant you wasn't going to give me $500 every time I asked, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that kind of, because I'm entitled, family is the most entitled people we're ever going to have in our
Yeah.
lives. So they are the most important people to have boundaries with, because they are people we love to death and we want to love on, and that's okay. But when
Yeah.
we need pieces of ourselves for ourselves, especially when we are healing from some of the stuff that they indeed did to us, we
Yeah.
have to have some space to do that,
Yeah.
and let it be okay. And again, like you said, something so key, just have these conversations.
Yeah.
We have to have the conversations. I've had conversations with my mom about, my depression. I went through, I had my first suicidal attempt in 2014. I was fresh out of college, my undergrad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that depression, again, I kept
Wow.
saying to myself, I remember, like, I need to speak to somebody. I kept saying it to myself because I was so depressed. But I, of course, kept ignoring until I crashed and I burned. I
Yeah.
took 68 sleeping pills.
Wow.
I only know how many it was because when I got to the hospital, thank God for my friend, she came. She's like, "You gotta go to the hospital," and she made me go. And because of the amount, and if I had, I took enough to have never waking up again.
Mm-hmm.
But they're doing their job. They asked me how many I took because that would have gave. Now that I'm in the field, I know if you tell me how many you took, I'll know how to gauge if you're in any real imminent danger.
Ah. Mm-hmm.
So, because it's like you try to attempt to kill yourself and you took 5 Tylenols, like
Mm-hmm.
at one
Right.
time. And people do that, and it's
Mm-hmm.
superficial, and you know that they are dealing with something is more mental than it really is. They actually have the capacity to
Yeah.
hurt themselves.
Yeah.
So because I remember just being in this fog, and I'm like, why they asking me that? Like that's stupid. I gotta remember how I don't know. I took a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So as they made me, like literally made me, like, no, you need to tell us how many it took. I had to remember, like, oh, I think one of the packages said 8, and then I took another bottle that had about 16.
Oh.
So they kept saying it to me, like you took, and they kept saying it to me. And I remember getting irritated by the 4th day or so that I was in the hospital. Like, why y'all keep telling me that? I know, but I mean, what? I'm ready to go home. I was irritated. But then it dawned on me, and I mean, I cried like a baby because the Holy Spirit spoke to me in that moment when it took the right social worker or somebody, the therapist, to say to me, "You took 68 sleeping pills." And I got mad. I said, "Why do y'all keep saying that to me?" And then she rephrased it and said, "You took 68 sleeping pills. Would you have been okay if you didn't wake up?"
Mm. Mm.
And that's when I actually started to process what I had done.
What you did, yeah.
And the reality that I would have been dead flooded me. And
Mm.
then it's just like so much. That's when I actually started to process what was going on with me.
Mm.
And that's what I'm saying with people, like you said, it's so perfect because we ignore it. Because
Yeah.
here it is, I'm taking 68 sleeping pills. I'm just ready to get it over with. I'm just like, I want to move on. I want to go
Mm-hmm.
home. I'm getting mad at me. Leave me alone. Like, I'm just like, it's over now.
Yeah.
It's not. And they had to keep saying it to me, like, no, you took enough sleeping pills to take your life.
Take you out. Yeah. Yeah.
Why did you do that? You're not talking about that. So until you talk about that, we're going to worry about you.
The why.
That's our job,
Mm-hmm.
right? We're going to worry about you because if you don't think something is wrong with it, we know how to carry it. And
Yeah.
now I understand it because I'm in the field. So I get it because it's something that I would do for somebody that I've done now.
Wow.
But at that
Yeah.
time, I was young. I hadn't gotten into my career yet. So I
Yeah.
didn't understand why they kept saying it to me because we have to get to the point of processing. If you're still ignoring it, and that's with any patient, whether it be my drug and alcohol patient, whatever, if they're not processing why they're sitting in front of you, especially for
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that, inpatient or a program that they have to be at, and they
Mm-hmm.
have to sit in front of you, it's like you have to understand that this is a problem. Because if
Yeah.
you don't, this is all null and void. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter because you're going to go right back down a rabbit hole, and it could be worse next time.
Yeah.
So I had to process where I was at with that depression. We just don't do it. We will ignore it
We
and
ignore it.
ignore it
Yeah.
and ignore it until
Yeah.
something bad happens.
Yeah.
And like I said, we have to have the conversation. After that, my mother really realized, because I told you she dismissed me and ignored me as a kid. You see what I mean? As a kid, I was dismissed, ignored. She called me sensitive and I'm just being dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a drama queen and just making me feel like all of my feelings are wrong.
Yeah.
Until she realized that this was the real problem. Now she knows. And even though she still can't necessarily wrap her head around it because she comes from a different era, she's a baby
Yeah.
boomer. Baby boomers, their era of generation was about, surviving,
Yeah.
looking good, surviving
Yeah.
is first, all of those things. So she doesn't know any better, but she
Yeah.
realizes that it's a problem. And she tries a little bit more because
Yeah.
I've had the conversations with her, like, Mom, I didn't need this, and we have to have those conversations, especially when it's like our parents, we don't like having these conversations.
Yeah.
We have to talk about it.
Yeah.
That's why this conversation, I was so excited about it because it's necessary.
It's necessary.
Like you said, Rachel, you hit it on the nose. We just don't talk about it in a productive way. We
Nope.
don't tell the truth about it. This is happening to us. So we don't heal in isolation,
Yeah.
and we don't heal at the feet of what hurt us. We
Yeah.
really do have to get in it, in the thick of it. And it's okay to get yourself a professional to walk you through some of this stuff, especially if it is shameful,
Mm-hmm.
especially if it is a little serious and
Yeah.
severe. And you
Yeah.
don't, especially if you've never said it out loud. You might spend months in a therapist and never say anything out loud.
Yeah.
Even just that is okay. It's okay.
Right.
You're taking the step because
Yeah.
you did, and you get to realize how much something hurts you. Because
Yeah.
if you're in the busyness of life, you won't see it. But as you're sitting there, you're like, I still haven't told my therapist. I still haven't said it. It lets you know that you're still uncomfortable with this thing. You're still
Yeah.
not. You're still battling with it, and that's
Yeah.
okay. You have somebody there to tell you this is okay. It's all right. When you're ready, we can. What can you do? What do you have? We can start there wherever you are.
Yeah.
And just those things in itself, that right there in itself can be therapeutic in its own self. Just having a space where somebody knows you're
Um.
hurting, they're acknowledging,
Mm.
and they're not trying to push you to process it per se. They're
Mm-hmm.
just like, at least we acknowledge it. I acknowledge it.
Yeah.
I acknowledge that you're hurting. You're here because you're hurting, and I'm proud of you for
Yeah.
trying.
Yeah.
That's enough for the day. Because some stuff hurts so
Right.
bad that it is going to hurt. Because, like I said, I have said in front of 30 plus, 40 plus women the first time they're ever saying, somebody hurt me, somebody touched me, somebody raped me.
Mm.
And the floodgates of tears fall because
Wow.
they're crying for that little girl, crying
Yeah.
for all those years, crying through all of this now pain, drug addiction, and all of the other stuff that stems from the root. It's serious. So
Yeah.
it's okay if you don't have words for a while.
Right.
Still get in the room with somebody who
Get
you
in the
can
room.
safely
Yeah.
say, I'm hurting.
Yep.
And they don't have a thing. Because that's the thing is when you try to do these things with our loved ones, sometimes they cannot carry it. Do I
Mm.
wish? Do I wish I had that mother-daughter relationship where I can tell my mom everything? She's my best friend. Yes, I wish that when I was a kid, but I get it. I've accepted that. I have the mother I have. She loves me to death, but she doesn't know how to really identify with my sadness or my feelings and emotions because she didn't have somebody
She
teach her
didn't.
that.
She
She
did.
didn't have somebody to
And
teach her that.
and that's one thing I was like. She did, like you said, she did what she
What she knew
knew
how to do,
to
right?
do. And I love how you said that about, because a lot of times our generation, we do the blame game, and it's like you're 50 something at this point.
You can't keep doing
You're responsible for
it.
you.
You're
Like, you
responsible.
cannot keep blaming your 80, 90-year-old it's like
Okay.
they did what they knew to do. Now
New
that
to
you
do.
know better.
You gotta do, yes, you have to do better now because you know that this is
Yeah.
not okay. You can't keep turning into that little kid that wants
Yeah.
the mom to be responsible, wants the father to be responsible. That's over with. And
Yeah.
even that, processing that with somebody that you're still angry and that
Mhm.
you wish they would have shown up as this person.
Mhm.
Because that you therapists, we do have to tell
Yeah.
you those hard things that it's time to accept it.
Yeah.
You do have to accept this. And no, your mother may not ever change.
Yeah.
No, your father may not ever change.
Mhm.
But they're showing up for you now in this way, and
Mhm.
they're trying to give you what they do have.
Yeah.
How can we work from there? How can
Yeah.
you meet them there? Because we have life today, they have life. To still have a parent is an amazing blessing. Let's make it a blessing on earth. Let's move forward. How do we do that? How do we shape that? What does that look like for us?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's hope. You have to create that for yourself,
Yeah.
and you do that in those spaces with the professional who is trained to do that with you.
Mhm.
We deserve stuff like that. I think that we don't look at therapy like that. We deserve that. I tell women all the time, you deserve. I say that a lot, and I'm real big on celebrating women in my platform because and women I coach and mentor, just so many things I'm big on. You deserve that.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that we wrap our head around those things. A lot of times we go through life as if we deserve bad. And
Mm-hmm.
we welcome and invite that bad so much, we invite it. But when something good comes along, something healthy, but 9 times out of 10 we can't even identify it. But then
Yeah.
receiving it, really embracing having a healthy friendship with a woman, because
Mm-hmm.
you are, your mother wounds. The first woman you learn how to navigate is your mother,
Yeah.
your sisters. If you have a sister, those things shape how you navigate other women in the world. Men as well. So many things. When you meet somebody that's healthy, you're just like not knowing how to really embrace that and show up in those things.
Yeah.
That's what you need therapy for, so you can develop a rhythm and a habit of healthiness, of
Yeah.
healed. Because healing is a process. What does it look like? That's what I'm really big on the how. What does that look like for you? Like, I want you to paint the picture, because if you can name some steps of what that might look like, or name some things, then you can start to apply that in your life, and you'll look up. You've been doing these things, you've committed to this intentional work, and you don't feel as heavy as you did when you first came. That's
Yeah.
progress. That's progress.
Yeah. 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 And like you said, the first thing, like you said, showing up. You may not have words,
Yeah.
um, but just the showing up, right?
And
Um,
saying, I'm here. I'm hurting. You don't have to. Sometimes people cannot put the words to certain things. It hurts too much,
mhm,
and it's okay, because
mhm,
these are sometimes not easy things to say.
mhm, mhm.
And it's not easy to say out loud for some people. The doctor said I have cancer, or
Mhm,
you know, got a psyche eval. They say I'm bipolar. They say I'm got personality disorder.
mhm.
It makes me feel this way.
Yeah.
They may not know how, or want to, and they may need to just sit there for a minute.
Yep.
A lot of times I do that work with people. I'm just like, let's just sit there for a minute. Let's feel your feelings, especially if I see that you're somebody who likes to rush through it. Like, this happened to me, and I wanted to be over tomorrow, and I'm at, and they try to skip. Especially black women, especially strong black women, who
Yep.
fit that mold. They're just like, when is it over? And I always say, like, healing is not linear.
No.
um, there's no, I wanted to hurry up and I wanted to be over. I get it. We want the pain to end. But that is gradual, because life happens, things hurt. But how you hurt, how you heal, that is the work that we're doing right now.
Mhm,
How you do
mhm,
those things, you building
mhm.
your tools. And you have to sometimes give yourself grace and space to just
That's
hurt,
it.
to
That's
just
it.
be mad, to just not be, you don't want to, and that's why therapy is good, because in this
And
space,
unapologetically.
yes, in this space you can be as petty as you want. You can
Yeah.
feel that, and you don't have to feel bad about it.
Yeah.
You can have their moment,
Yeah.
and then you can also leave with a solution
Yeah.
if you decide. Because I'm that person, I would be like, so what do you want a solution? Are you ready to move to solution? Are you ready
Mhm.
for that? Because sometimes you want to sit there a little longer than others, and you're like, I'm not ready to forgive. I'm not ready to do these things. And even that, because sometimes people will get caught up in trying to say the right thing too.
Yep.
In therapy, they'll try to say the right thing or answer it the right way. I'm like, I always say it's no. When
Mhm.
I see them thinking, and I'm like, you don't have to think
And
about
it's
the
like,
answer.
that it's like
You
you're talking to
know,
the therapist. You
yes, you
know
know
she
how you
knows that.
feel. Yes, you know how you feel. It's okay if you just decide you do not want to forgive. That
Yeah.
is a normal feeling. It's okay for you to be like, oh no, I'm mad, and I don't want to be nothing else right now. I want to have that. It's okay to have that.
Listen, when I tell you, I the first time I went to therapy was like, it was before the pandemic. Maybe I want to say maybe 8 years ago.
Mm,
Um, and I don't think I was ever like scared of it. I think I just didn't know. Like,
yeah.
and so what happened was one of my friends, she was going to therapy, and I'm like, oh, who is the person? Tell me about the person. I'm like, oh, send me the information, right? I think because I know I need to talk some things out.
Yeah.
And When I tell you, I wasn't like when I first sat down, I was nervous, but I sat in the chair and not the couch. And so she's like, "Oh, you can sit wherever you want to sit." When I tell you, when I sat on that couch,
Yeah.
I talked and talked and I got
You
so
didn't even
much
know how much you
stuff
needed to just talk.
out,
Yes.
and I was like, even my anger, I was like, I told her like people that I'm don't want to forgive right now. Like I'm just gonna be honest, like I just don't want to right now. Like I know in my mind,
Right.
I know what I'm supposed to do, but I'm
Right.
telling you at this moment, this is how I feel, and
Yes.
I'm not doing it. I'm not.
Yes. Yes.
I was like just straight up like that, right? But there was so I shared with you before we went on about my brother, right? How
Yes.
his death, like for years I held this, up until
Right.
like a year ago I had like a breakthrough on it. But when I was in therapy, so I'm saying all this stuff, we got to that and I forgot how we got to it, and I just stopped.
Yeah.
And it was like sitting right here, and I
Mhm.
just could not, I couldn't speak it, I couldn't say it.
Yeah.
But I did later on. I shared when I finally, kind of started talking about it to her. I shared with her that when it happened, I was so angry. I was talking about it, but it was from a place of anger. But when I got into that space with her where it was like, okay, now it's time to be vulnerable about it, share your feeling about it. That's when I got
Mhm.
it took a minute. So I love how you said that about I
Yeah.
thought about that when you said that about sometimes just going, you may not have the words,
Yeah.
but just as long as
Yeah.
you're there. But it was me taking that step, right? Me being
Yeah.
there those few times and then being able to actually
To have
speak
a
it.
breakthrough. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yes,
therapy
and
works.
that's
Let me
really
tell you.
good, especially for like women, like you said. That is a perfect example of how it looks for
Mhm.
most high functioning women,
Mhm.
because a lot of times you don't know and you never
Mhm.
think about it because you're high functioning. So you kind of,
Mhm.
and that happens a lot. Also, you'll get a high functioning client and they can tell you everything that's wrong. They
Yeah.
can tell you, like, you were able to say what
Yeah.
their issues were,
Yeah.
all of those things, but you were also willing to say, like, I'm not ready to unpack that though. I just,
Yeah.
I just kind
Yeah.
of, I just wanted to leave that here. And
Yeah.
it's good because sometimes as a high functioning woman, we don't often talk about what's in our head. We're kind of just
Yeah.
moving around.
Yeah.
So you utilize therapy for that. Like, this is my
Yeah.
place. I'm about to sit on this couch and I'm not going to dump all of my thoughts out right
Yeah.
here. And that's a good thing because you needed to just be able to say it out loud.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need to be a space to do that. Just
Yeah.
say it. And a lot of high functioning clients, they are in that space where they know what they need to do. They know where they've identified. So they're not in that identification space. They're more so in the process space
Mhm.
of, I just need a space to kind of put this. And then when I'm ready, I'll process it and I'll be ready to move to a solution because I know I
Mhm.
have to, pioneer this. I know I have to, get through this. I know all of those things, but this is just my space to kind of feel it through, and I'm
Yeah.
letting it be here. And that's a lot of times. And I tell people that all the time, like, you don't think you deserve that. Like,
Yeah.
as a high functioning person, that is just something you deserve. And if you
Yeah.
start looking at it that way and stop looking at it as something's wrong with you, you're
Yeah.
still very high functioning. You get everything, you do what you're supposed to do, your basic necessities. Nothing in life is truly dog walking you. It's just that
Mhm.
you don't have a space to kind of get some of your thoughts out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lay it
Yeah.
there. And you can utilize your therapy space to just do that. You
Yeah.
can, or you can go in like, I think I should do
Mhm.
this. And you
Yeah.
have a solution. And you're just flushing the solution out with someone else. And they're
Exactly.
telling you if it's healthy or what could be the best scenario for you. All of those things. When you're high functioning, you do need that. And that might
Yeah.
be what therapy looks like for you. Just
Yeah.
because you're not somebody with this severe trauma doesn't mean that therapy isn't for you. We
That's
often hear therapy and think that something has to happen extreme, but it's just like life stuff too.
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad. Yeah. Cuz like
Yeah.
so with like I told you with mines, it was grief, right? You're carrying all, this,
Yes.
and
And that's
and
real.
I never knew the steps of it. I never knew how to
Right.
manage it. All I knew was like, oh, you were grieving, not thinking that you still are, right? It wasn't
Right.
until I learned the steps of it, and it's like, oh my gosh, I experienced
That's
that.
grief.
I
Yeah.
went through this stuff. I
Yeah.
went through. So it's like when it happens again, the next closest person that dies, it's like now I can identify, oh my
But
gosh,
grief
I'm
looks,
in this.
yes,
This
grief
is
has
where
a
I am.
face.
Like, oh my gosh, okay, I gotta, yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
grief has many faces too, because
yeah,
it does oftentimes show up like that because people just keep moving on.
yep,
And you're like, oh, well, that's what we do. And
yeah,
this means if I'm moving on, then I'm okay.
yeah,
And like you said, having somebody unpack that and help you identify. And you're like, oh, I do. I have been. And just needing somebody to stop you for a minute, like being in that moment to be able to stop. Sometimes you need therapy just for that, for an
yep,
hour of just stopping.
yeah,
Because some people, those are normal things that we don't think is a thing that we
mm-hmm,
need therapy for, because that word seems like something serious, deep has to be happening. But like you
yeah,
said, you were grieving and had never unpacked grief,
yep,
so you needed that regardless. And then even though it didn't happen yesterday, but
yeah,
it was something still showing up in your
yeah,
today, and you need to stop for a minute in order to realize that. You
yeah,
need somebody that's going to ask you, well, do you do this? somebody
mm-hmm.
who's somebody who's trained to ask you the right questions so that you
That's
can
it.
dump it out,
Yeah, yeah,
because it does look that way, especially in high functioning individuals, period.
yeah,
Everyday life stuff, things happen, you kind of just move within the rhythm because you're used
mm-hmm,
to doing that.
mm-hmm,
And then you look up and realize, I am a mess. Or like, I am broken
yep,
in this place, or this still hurts in
yeah,
so many things. And you realize, like, wow, oh no, this I needed this.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
and that's usually the person who needs it the most, is the person who doesn't think they need it. I
yeah,
always say that all the time, like most, and that's another reason why a lot of people don't go, Black and brown people, because we're in that denial space that we don't need it.
denial,
We don't see
mm-hmm,
it.
mm-hmm,
We don't see it. We need it. We don't think we need that. You need a therapist, or something is wrong with you. You need to go talk to somebody. Even when the way we say it, it's in a
yeah,
negative way. Like we use it when we're trying to be smart or sarcastic towards somebody. Like, oh, you need to go talk to somebody. You crazy.
mm-hmm,
Stuff like that.
yeah,
And it's like, it's just a thing that we deserve. That
yeah,
space, we deserve that. We deserve space. We deserve emotional space and emotional
mm-hmm,
safeness. That is what we deserve. So
yeah,
it's almost, just like we deserve breath in our bodies, and we have,
right,
we
yeah,
have oxygen. It's the same. We
mm-hmm,
deserve it. And if we
yeah,
don't have a mindset that we deserve to have spaces to unpack our emotions or just our thoughts, if we don't think that we're entitled to that, that's where we go wrong. This is like,
yeah,
oh well, you think all you deserve to relax for the day is a drink after work, or whatever the case may be. That's all you
yeah,
deserve. You
yeah, yeah,
never, deserve to unpack that really heavy work day, or the fact that you are miserable at that job. You don't think you
yeah,
deserve it. So
yeah,
it's a lot of times about us just not thinking we deserve that, or that it has to be something we're completely crazy, or we have to be going, deep
I
dark in a
think, and
room,
that's what it is,
depressed,
yeah,
to go to therapy, when that's not the
mm-hmm,
case.
mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And
Wow.
you're right, like a lot of high functioning people, it's like, oh well, I got this going, I got this going, I
I'm too
get so
busy.
oh, I'm good, I'm good. But you're not on the inside.
No, right. You're definitely not
And
good.
you can move about your daily life and really think that you're good, and something's going on the it was me,
Right, same.
and on the outside it does look like, she's got it together,
Right.
but
Yes, I was a high functioning depressant. So for me, it's just like people are like, she gets her degree, she's doing this, she does
yeah,
this, she's in her community, and she gives back, she's done that.
mhm,
I can't believe this
mhm,
happened to her, when people found out about my suicide attempt.
yeah,
But that goes to show you, I show up for people in such fullness, but
mm,
in that, and I'm even learning now, like, because I'm such a giant, and I
mhm,
do I do have that personality, and that is a part of my purpose, is to
Right.
be the person that holds your hand and be the voice
Mm-hmm.
of wisdom and all those things. I realize how it's very important for me to also have that for myself.
Take care of your.
It's very important for me to also have community of giants and
Yeah.
people around me who are spiritual giants, and
Yeah.
people around me who are just every day, walking in purpose, doing the things that, they do, because carrying a mantle of a business and things that really mean something to you, and you're walking in obedience in these things.
Yeah.
It's a thing, and you do have to have people who understand that, because it
Yeah.
can be crazy to somebody who lives a certain way, or whatever the case may be. They live a little safer. They're not risk takers, or whatever the
Right.
case may be.
Right.
But when you're in a
Right.
community of people who are invested in something and invested in a vision, they understand you when you are
Mm.
taking out loans so that you can make something happen. And when you
Yeah.
are, traveling to go speak here, go speak there, when you
Yeah.
are writing your book, and I'm like, can't talk, gotta read, gotta write,
Mm-hmm.
gotta do gotta do all these things. You deserve that community. I deserve
Yeah.
that as well,
Yeah.
because I can't pour from an empty cup. I have to pour from my overflow.
Mm.
So having to learn that as a black woman, I don't have to deplete myself
Mm.
to be satisfactory. I don't have to deplete myself and perform so much, to be worthy. All of those things.
Someone, what you just said about pouring from your overflow. I never knew. Uh, Maybe a couple of years ago, someone said that to me. You're supposed to be pouring from your overflow, and I'm like, what? Like, never even.
Thought about it like that. Yeah.
Yeah, never even thought about it like that. Never
Yes.
thought about it like that.
It's so true, because we learn to perform and, deplete ourselves,
Yeah.
and we attach our worth to that.
Yeah.
That's just like, social media plays such a part on our mental health today because of
Mm.
that.
That was gonna
Because
be my next question. Go into it, honey.
listen, because we really do attach our worth and our value to so many things that have nothing to do with anything.
Mm.
And when those things come and go, like I said, I'm so big on purpose, because a lot of my depression stem from, nobody's not going to love me, all of these things. I stopped waiting for somebody to show up and love me the way that I needed to be loved. And I learned how to love myself like that. I learned how to get
Yeah.
in the gap for myself. So everything else people do for me or show up for me as is additional. And I'm
Yeah.
no longer emotionally needy like I
Mm-hmm.
was. So needy, needy, needy. And you become a succubus in that way, when you are just needy, 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 and expecting people to pour into you in a way that your mother or father should have.
Yeah.
They miss that mark. You have to learn how to fill it up.
Yeah.
So it first comes with just identifying that, okay, mommy and daddy left a void here. How do I fill it up? How do I give myself the love I need? And I'm big on, having time carved out for myself to do the things I love, to
Mm-hmm.
love on me, to acknowledge me the way I need to. I
Yeah.
celebrate myself in such a big way.
That's right.
And, all of the things that I need to do to fill that void up for myself.
Yeah.
It's important because my value is not attached to my accomplishments,
Mm. Come
and
on.
my
Come
value
on.
is not attached to the performance.
Yeah.
But did I learn that? Absolutely. And I had to unlearn it, because what if I don't accomplish anything?
Yeah. Come on.
What if I don't do anything grand except go to work every day, pay all my bills as I'm supposed to, and go out to eat here and there for the year? Does that mean that I'm not worthy?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm big on celebrating like the everyday girl, the everyday mom and stuff under my platform for that reason, because
Yeah.
it is a big deal when you just take care of your kids all year.
Yeah.
It is a big deal when you, as a single mom, you did two proms this year.
Yeah.
If you did one, you had to get prom done, had to get graduation done.
Yeah.
They want to go off to college, you got to get that done, and you did that all on your own, doing doubles, all of the things.
Yeah.
And now you look on social media, you comparing your life to the mom who has more support than you.
Right.
Or a lot of times you don't see the people's labor. She has several streams of income, or she owns this business and that business. You're looking at how she did her and her kids' prom, or
Yeah.
because she just opened up her seventh property for this or that, and you feel like less of a woman because you don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Just like her value as a woman is not determined by those things, neither is yours.
Neither's yours. Yeah.
My value, and I teach my girls that, young women that I mentor as well. Your value is not attached to, having a 30-inch weave. If you can't have, you don't got a bust down, you're not valuable. You
Right.
don't have a Brazilian body, you're not, that you went and got, you're not valuable. It's sad to see young people today,
And
how
that's what we
sad
got
they,
to teach them. Yeah.
yes, their mental health is being affected at an all-time
Mm.
high because they have this social media where, you have young 15-year-old girls who have a normal 15-year-old girl body, but
Yeah.
she's on TikTok watching her latest influencer who she looks up to, who everybody looks up to, who
Yeah.
has lip fillers and all of these
Mm-hmm.
things, and trying to sneak and get lip fillers, and feeling like she's not good looking because she doesn't have the body like this grown woman she follow on TikTok.
Yeah.
This lady is grown. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Like stuff like that. You look beautiful for 15. You
Mm-hmm.
look amazing, actually. Stuff like that. But they can't see themselves that way because they have to look a certain way in order to be considered as beautiful. Because the
Yeah.
world, TikTok is saying this is the look. And next year it'll be a different look.
Yeah.
If you're
Right.
not okay with your look, be
Right.
okay with your look. And I process that with grown women who are not from the TikTok era, and they deal with these identity things, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe you had a baby and you had a couple babies. Give yourself some grace. You're not
Yeah.
gonna have the same body you had when you was 21 with no kids
Yeah.
and all of the things. Give yourself grace and learn to love what you got right now and work towards what you want at the same time.
Yeah.
But if I have been that therapist. I give my clients homework, and it's been plenty of times had to give some women some homework. Listen, the assignment is you this week. I want you to sit in the mirror completely naked
Mm.
and look at you.
Mm.
Look at you. Don't run from you. Look at you. And
Wow.
really look at you.
Yeah.
And if you
I
love
love that.
how you look, and sometimes I take it as far as looking that mirror at yourself and think to yourself, if you were a man, would you put your parts in your parts?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
then then you ain't doing too bad, baby girl. Look, if you still like what you see, and
Mm-hmm.
still then you're not doing bad. But
Yeah.
sometimes you do need to look at yourself truly
Yeah.
in all your glory and love you.
Mm.
Love what you see. And tell yourself, I'm gonna love you. I'm gonna love you. If nobody loves you, I love you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put those shorts on. This is it. This summer. I'm gonna wear
Yeah.
that stuff. All of those things. Learning to give it to you, because when you're waiting for the validation,
Mm.
waiting for the TikTok followers, and waiting for the waiting for this amount of likes, you may never like yourself then. Your value is not attached to anything tangible.
Yeah.
And then I go, if I go as far as my believers, we have been valuable since we were formed in our mother's womb.
Mm.
God called you worthy. He called you a royal priesthood. He
Mm.
made you that way. He created you, breathed life into you, and chose you
Yeah.
to be here. You've been chosen since the beginning of the earth, since the formation of the earth.
And ain't nothing more beautiful than that, honey.
It's nothing more beautiful than that. That somebody thought of you. You were mindful. You were thought of
Mm-hmm.
before the formation of the world. Before the world was formed, you were thought of.
Yeah.
That's how special you are. So you don't need to think that you're not special because you don't have 7 businesses and you don't
Yeah.
have this, and you can't go in the room and say, "Oh, I got 5 degrees in the license and of this and in the air fryer. I got 5 air fryers. I have the top of the line." Whatever
Yeah.
the things are, it's okay for you to just as big, say, "I'm proud of myself. I got my son's prom done."
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
Especially
Mm-hmm.
if earlier in the year you ain't know how you gonna get all of that done,
Come on.
and
Mm-hmm.
you got it done. That's an accomplishment. Clap for
Yeah.
yourself.
Clap
Give
for
yourself
yourself.
a break. And when you pack that boy up and get him to that dorm room, you
Huh.
go get you something to eat.
And
You
give
go take
yourself a high
yourself
five.
out to eat. and do something for
Listen.
yourself and celebrate the fact that you are a college mom. You did that. You
Yeah.
did that.
Yeah.
He's there. He's safe. He has everything he needs. Mom, you're accomplished.
Yeah.
You did something that is amazing. But if you
Yeah.
don't think that that makes you worthy, don't wait for nobody else to pat you on the back for those
That's right.
things.
Yeah.
I tell my girls all the time, you want roses and flowers. Don't keep waiting and trying to post memes to drop hints to no man.
Right.
Buy yourself some
Right.
roses.
Yes.
If you want some flowers, you get some flowers.
Yeah.
If you want to go to a 5-star restaurant, you get dressed, smell good, and you go. Make your
And
reservation
go.
and go. So that way, again, when somebody comes along, if you're single or whatever, or if you're in a relationship, people, these sometimes your spouse needs to know that this is the standard for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
set the standard. You set the blueprint for how people are going to treat you, and
Yeah.
that's
That's
in
it.
any relationship. You
Yep.
set the blueprint for how
Yep.
family treats you. You set the blueprint for how friends
Right.
treat you. You set the blueprint in business. You set the blueprint. People have to come along and follow suit.
Yeah.
That's it. They got to get along. They got to get along with the program.
Right.
And you're somebody who's the program director. You have to figure out what that's going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
And when you don't know, therapy's a good place to start. Because identity crisis is something that's too high simply because we
It
are looking
is. Yeah.
at all these false identities and created identities on the
Yeah.
internet and all of these things. And again, most people are posting the life that they don't really live for real.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, when people are posting their everyday real time things, get ready with me's and day in my life and all of that kind of content as well, people still have to get along. You don't know what people are struggling with and what their things are. So you should never covet what somebody else has. And you should never be taking away from who you are because of what
Yeah.
you don't have that somebody else has.
Right.
And that also breaks down the seeds of jealousy and comparison. You cannot live a free life
Mm.
always comparing what you do to somebody else's walk.
Yep.
Theirs is theirs. Yours is yours.
Mm.
Clap for them in their season and know that
Come
yours
on.
is coming.
Come on.
That's it. And again, we all go through it. Seasons change. That's the thing.
Yeah.
One time, sometimes they're up, sometimes they're down. And again, most times you're not going to see people's down seasons.
Right.
You're
Right.
not going to see that. And again,
Right.
I tell people all the time with me now, I'm like, people a lot of times might get jealous of me or whatever the case may be, but they don't know how I tarry in my secret place.
Mm-hmm.
They have no idea that
Yeah.
it's the cost of the oil over this way. It's
Hmm.
the cost.
Because the oil
The
cost.
oil cost, okay? That's what I said. The oil cost. I'm like, if they knew that what I had to face and fight and all of the things, they would say, keep it.
Yeah.
Probably keep it. But I'm graced for it because it's my walk.
That's
God
right.
gives you grace for your walk. You have grace for certain things that I don't have grace for, and I have grace for certain things that you don't have grace for. That's why
Right.
we're built for community.
Mm.
Because we together we're so much more powerful. Because I can feel you in those ways because I'm graced for that.
Yeah.
And you can feel me in certain ways because you're graced for that.
Yeah.
You have enough of it. I have enough of certain things for you, and you have enough of certain things for me. And all of it is valuable.
Yeah.
We can't say that, we can't say Mary is not as valuable as Simon or Peter or Paul, or you
Mm-hmm.
can't say that she's not valuable because all she did was have a baby.
Yeah.
Is she not valuable? She played her part.
Right.
And to God, all of it is equal because she was obedient to her, which she was supposed to
Mm-hmm.
do. They
Mm-hmm.
were obedient to their walk and what they were supposed to do. Paul was also blinded for 3 days. She didn't have to go through that. So you understand, it's the comparison game is not a game you want to play.
Yeah.
But it's so easy when we are consumed with what we see on the internet and all
Mm-hmm.
of that, and we're becoming so consumed of it. And I tell people this all the time because I post a lot because I'm in business and I have a brand, but
Yeah.
I don't consume, I don't scroll a lot.
Yeah.
And then when I am on social media, I'm usually on it intentionally.
Mm-hmm.
To network with certain people
Yep.
and
Yep.
tap in with certain people who are in my field or in my industry or doing things that I love or people I want to invest in, and in the field and in business, women in business.
Yeah.
So, um, I always tell people I'm careful about my ear and my eye gate for a reason. And God favored me to learn about that very early on, like early in my 20s. I learned about, just how these are a gate. These are a gate.
Yeah.
Being very careful about who you listen to, what you're listening to, and what you watch, what you are letting in here. Because if all you see and this thing is evil all at the same time while we use it for good, this algorithm thing is real. You click on one thing so many times, and you're a single woman and you click on one wedding dress page, now they're showing you all these weddings. And you're now made to feel lonely, or like you're not doing
Right.
it right and something's wrong with you and you need to make an account on this app and all of these things because you the phone is tricking you into believing that you're lonely because you don't have you're not married yet. All of these weddings are happening.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. It's just like we gotta be very careful of that stuff. The eye ear and the eye gate is so important. And I always tell people who are on their journey, if you are serious about being intentional and living an intentional life, especially at building a rhythm of intentionality in your life, be very mindful of the time you spend idly scrolling and idly just kind of doing those things. Because again, I get my thrills off of just tapping out and going on TikTok to just laugh. Right?
Right. Yep.
But I'm not gonna get. They're not gonna get 2 hours of that of me. Like I'm gonna be very mindful of it and just doing those things in doses and balances, but being very mindful about the time you spend and how you spend your time consuming certain things and letting things into your gates because these
Yeah.
gates, this stuff it deposits here, and what's here comes out. It comes out in something. It
Yeah.
will come out in your lifestyle. It will come out, and then it influences you to this mental health thing to go crazy almost trying to live a life or keep up with a life that's in your algorithm. You're trying to keep up with the life in your algorithm, and it's just
Yeah.
not something. It's not real. That's
Yeah.
the thing. It's
Yeah.
not real. It's not a real thing. It doesn't happen. So I'm just like, you guys gotta create your own real life, real time algorithm.
Yeah.
And it's a real challenge to be able to sit still in this day and age where we're so used to using that phone, and even time we sit down to eat, we can't even eat without,
Looking at the
just
phone.
disciplining yourself to kind of put the phone down.
Yeah.
It's hard to do because we
Mm-hmm.
live on it. We live
Right.
on the thing, and the world makes it easy for us to do everything from a phone. There's an app for everything. We have everything on the phone.
Yeah.
Like the whole life is on there, so you just feel like you're missing something. You
Mm-hmm.
you might walk out the house with no drawers on, but you ain't walking out
You walk out without that phone.
that phone. You looking for that. You're looking for it.
You.
So it's one of those things we have to be mindful when it comes to our mental health, because a lot of times people are walking around with no peace, simply anxious just because of that,
Yeah.
because of social media.
Yeah.
You have anxiety because again, you're looking at the algorithms telling you that you're behind, and you're right where you're supposed to be a lot of
Yeah.
the times in your journey. Especially if you're even thinking about it, you're probably closer than you think if you're thinking that there's more.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, you have shared so much. I mean, oh my gosh. We gotta do part two. You have shared
I love it. Yes,
so
I gotta come to LA now.
you gotta come to LA and we're gonna talk when we get off here. But you
Yeah.
have shared so much. Oh my gosh. I know somebody was empowered tonight. I know somebody was informed. And I
Yes.
know somebody was led to be transformed, because that's the goal of this show, is
Yes.
to
We can
inform,
do.
empower, and transform. Because you can do all things through Christ who
Yes, we
strengthens
can.
you. So I just want to thank you so much for
Thank you.
coming on the show, because I was intentional. I wanted to do a show about mental health. And so of course, May is mental health
Yes.
awareness month. So this
Perfect. Right
was why
on.
we,
Yep. Right
decided
on,
to do it
spot
this month.
on.
Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you. I mean, this interview was powerful.
Thank
I
you.
cannot wait to share it. And for those who are viewing, it will be, if you tuned in late, it will be saved on our YouTube channel.
Oh, perfect.
So
Yes, because people
yeah.
are already like trying to demon me, like, "Hey, where's this at? I don't want to miss it."
Oh no, I'm gonna send you the link right after. It'll be
Perfect.
saved
Perfect.
on our YouTube channel. So for anyone who wants to go back and view it, it stays there. And
Yay.
so it'll be saved there. So if you tuned in late, no worries. But if you
Yeah.
tuned in late, you are in for a treat. For those who tuned in from the beginning, I know that you were blessed. I don't have to think about it. I know that you were blessed. I want
Yes,
to
God. Bless
thank you
God.
all so much for tuning in,
Yes,
joining
God.
us, taking time out of your evening for this much needed conversation. I pray that someone was blessed. I pray that you will have some takeaways. I pray that maybe you took notes. I didn't get to take notes because
Yes.
I'm on, but I always go back and watch, right?
Yes.
My interviews,
Yes,
I always
God.
go back and watch. And so I have a little notebook. I jot notes from there. But again, thank you so much.
You're
I mean,
welcome. This is a
I thank
pleasure.
God that He brought you here today.
Thank you, Jesus.
I do.
Listen, thank you, Jesus, for it. I mean, I got
Yeah,
to keep on keeping on. Thank
yeah,
you so much. And we'll be in touch. I really, like I said, I definitely now I gotta come out there. We gotta do
yeah.
some more work and
Mm-hmm.
keep fighting this good fight. I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for all you who are tuned in tonight, and those of you who are going to watch the playback. Send us, DM us,
Yes,
ask questions, all of the things, so that we can know. So you got to let her know what to bring you guys.
yeah.
So pop in, share, like, all of the things, subscribe.
And be sure to subscribe to our I Can Do YouTube channel. If you're on
Yes,
there already, the subscribe button should be right there. Be
yes,
sure to subscribe because we have we have good content. Our shows are just powerful. Our topics
yes,
are much needed conversations. So be sure to
right.
subscribe so you'll get that notification of our next episode. Again, Miss T, Christine, I want to thank you so much again. And to our viewers, thank you once again. I hope you have a blessed rest of the week. And remember, our goal is always to finish strong Friday. All right. Have a blessed one.
Yes. Woo. Bye
Bye.
bye.